trying to be an adult, and it's not working.
Adulting is hard.
Yes, adulting is very hard. Last minute accessorizing.
I meant to earlier and I forgot.
It's okay, we still love you.
I need a calcifer necklace.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, are we good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Alright.
Welcome back to the Writing Inkquisition. I'm Carol Benton.
I'm Marie Allen.
I'm Emma Rosalie.
And we have another change of scenery because Miss Rose here has moved out of her parents' house, so we are now filming in her new bedroom.
Congrats, you're an adult.
That means I'm the only one currently living with my parents. Some of us is still broke.
Yeah.
Anyway, this episode we're going to be talking a bit about crafting villains. Now, this is going to be something that we're probably going to wander a little off track on a lot because there's a lot of villains out there that we really like.
A lot of good examples.
Yeah. And hilariously, most of mine do not come out of ones that I've listed.
I know, right?
But anyway, I can't brain anymore.
Me
This
neither.
is bad. We just started.
I know. It's been a long week, okay? A lot of weird shit happened. In a good way. So let's start with the first one, which Rose actually supplied because she was, had enough bandwidth to actually start this document.
Yes.
So thank you for that. What are our favorite kinds of villains?
Well, I have a one-sentence answer. My favorites are the ones that, are super evil and you hate them, but they're still really cool, and then you find out some, really... It doesn't have to be sad, but some really good reason of why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah, the ones with the, really good backstories, those are my favorites.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Along similar lines, ones that I can relate to and or understand.
Yeah. Like Disney villains.
Well, I was thinking more like Killmonger out of Black Panther.
Okay.
Because you go in, straight up rooting for T'Challa, but Killmonger got a good point.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, but fuck Thanos. Just fuck Thanos. Not in a fun way.
I can relate to Scar. I'm surrounded by idiots.
Yes! Yes! So any villain that also has really good sassy lines.
Hades.
Yes!
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I turned into a meme queen just then.
Yas!
But Hades from the animated Hercules.
Mm-hmm.
Very fun.
Yes.
Um,
One of my absolute favorites. For sure.
I have a few examples.
Okay.
So, there's, what's her name? I don't know. There's the Marquise? Okay, I don't know why I can't talk today. Marquise from The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland in a Ship of Her Own Making. And I'm going to spoil it for that. You find out that, so the whole time they're talking about, when the good queen was here, everything was better, but you find out the good queen and the Marquise are the same person. And what happened is she grew up in Fairyland, I think she was pregnant, had a husband, and then Fairyland kicked her out, basically. So she went back into the human world, became 12 years old. You think she lost the baby, but the baby's okay. So she lost, everything, so that's why she's come back to be evil, basically. And then Lene from Plain Kate, because the whole reason why he's doing it is to save his sister or to put her soul to rest, even though she's already dead. But it was cool.
Yeah. One that I thought of during our pre-filming discussion was Prince Humperdinck from Princess Bride.
Yeah. I love to hate him.
Yes.
Love to hate him.
Yeah. A good villain, you want to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And, of course, the Six-Fingered Man.
Oh,
from
that's
Sailor
another
Moon.
one. Oh, man.
He's just an asshole.
He is.
Yeah.
He's a big jerk.
But that end fight scene, though.
Oh,
Yeah.
Ah!
love it.
Yeah. And of course, one that Marie and I obsess over is Crowley from Supernatural.
Oh, I love Crowley. I love him. He's one of my favorite characters.
That's because he's amazing.
Yeah.
And it only got better when Rowena showed up.
Oh, I know. He's all like, Mother.
Oh, he remembers.
I love her too.
I know, she's amazing.
She's another one.
Most of the villains from Supernatural are just amazing. And we will get you addicted to that show at some point.
We will.
It's going to happen.
Yes. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lucifer also. You love him and you forget that he's, the devil. Small things.
Yeah. Angels are dicks.
Yeah.
A lot of the demons are actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's impossible to talk about Supernatural in public.
Yeah. Everyone thinks you're Satan worshippers or something. And
Yeah.
That's slightly true.
Yeah. But to be fair, the Satanic Bible actually makes a lot more sense than the Christian Bible does.
It does. Yeah, for sure.
It's a weird thing, but
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
Are there any other villains that we want to bring up before we move on to the next question?
Let me see here. Voldemort's interesting.
Umbridge.
Oh, fuck Umbridge.
Oh my gosh, she's worse than Voldemort.
Yeah, no, I actually saw somebody compare Umbridge to Ianthe. And I was just like, yes! This bitch!
Yeah, exactly.
And I was so happy with how Farron dealt with her in the end. So like, whoever's in there with you is gonna die. I'm like, you thought.
Yeah.
Anyway, come back here. How do we want to make sure that we don't make our villains cliche?
Just know your villain types, you
Yes.
know, and study those, and you can use parts of it that make them like villains, but like, you really need to be creative about it. And, well, like Sarah J. Maas, she does the whole cliche thing, and
She
you never
twists
see it coming. Yeah.
Yeah, like every single plot twist that she's done has technically been a cliche.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they like completely blindside you.
Exactly.
It's so annoying! How do you do it?
I don't know, you can be a genius like her.
Yeah.
Which, no pressure.
I just want to be friends with her. Like, seriously.
Seriously.
I
don't know. It's a very hard question because it's a very easy thing to do.
Yeah.
To like just make them cliche.
This is another one that Rose wrote, which in parentheses she put, which I struggle so much with!
Yeah, I think probably the best way to make them not cliche is to give them a detailed backstory and to kind of infiltrate at least some of it into your story so that you know the reasons as to why they're going about doing this. Yeah. What makes them, what motivates them.
Yeah.
And their relationships, can totally, like, you can, maybe the hero only sees one side of the villain for a long time, and then, but the reader sees these other relationships going on, and it's, like, totally different side. It's like, oh, you're an actual human being,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rose, is there anything that you want to say?
That could be a way.
Yeah, I was gonna say motivation, which you said. Another point. If you just think of it like if somebody told you need to make this story about this character instead, like if the villain could lead their own story developed enough, versus just being like, well, they just want to take over the world just because I said so.
Yeah.
So just treat them like any other character in the sense of develop them.
Treat them like a person.
Yeah, which is exactly what I wrote.
Yeah, they are. Most
they
of the
came
time,
from somewhere. They
most
have
of the time,
a
they're
backstory.
people, and usually, even if they're not like people, like if they're like a true monster, like a beast or something, they still should possess human qualities of some kind.
Yeah.
And remember, a lot of the time, they're not doing it for evil's sake. They don't think they're in the wrong most of the time. They're just going about it in very different way from the rest of society, how they would be like, well, that's the wrong way, And
keeping it more like, not necessarily casting them as a villain, even though they are the villain, but maybe having them more like a rival or something to the hero. Like, there's still going to be somebody who has a past, who has family and friends, and la-da-da-da-da, but they just really don't get along with the hero.
Yeah, I mean, that's an easy way to do it, for sure. Yeah.
There's also, I guess kind of a difference between the villain and the antagonist. I mean, the villain is the antagonist, but, you know, like, if your antagonist in the story is, like, a hurricane, the hurricane's not a villain.
Yeah.
In that sense.
It's just a...
But you can do that for characters, too, where, like, this person's not technically evil, but they're standing in the way of whatever the character wants.
They are a roadblock because they're stopping the hero from their goal.
Yeah. So do we want to talk about the cliche villain types are?
Yeah, let's do that. Let me go back to the site that I found that's handy dandy, which we should list below.
Yeah.
Because it's actually
the link will be in the description.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll just go over a few. I want to start at the top. The abusive authority figure, or the career bitch.
Let's go with abusive authority figure.
Okay.
For the alliteration.
It can go across genders too. So it's right here. So it doesn't have to necessarily be a woman.
Yeah.
Could be a dude.
Or a non-binary.
Or non-binary. Yeah, exactly.
Although if you do go the route of having your villain be non-binary, non-cis, non-het, make sure that there's a reason for that, and at least try to have a counterbalancing point, because there's been so many villains that have been of color, of homosexual orientation.
I wouldn't make whatever their like if their gender is, you know, part of it, that shouldn't be the reason as to why they're evil. Yeah. You know, and there should be a legitimate reason as to why they are that gender.
Yeah, it should be a facet of the personality, not they're evil because they're homo, because that makes no sense in the first place.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. So what is the abusive authority figure? Should we kind of go over that?
Yeah, I mean, you have a really good example in your own work.
Yeah, so basically there's someone who hold a authority position, or they hold like a very high profession, and basically they're ruthless. They will get to the top no matter who stands in their way. They kind of don't care how they get there, they just get there. So they're pretty unloyal. Statistically, a lot of the world's sociopaths, it says here, can be found doing this climb of the ladder. And
a very easy example of
they don't possess empathy, typically, or remorse of any type.
Yeah, so a very easy example for a real-life one is our current president, who can go fuck himself.
Yeah, that would be it.
Yeah.
No, that's a very good example. Okay, next one would be the beast, or the monster, which, is literally a beastly monster.
Yeah. And, like, I feel like a really good example of this would be the Greek Medusa.
Yeah.
Because for that particular myth, it also depends on whose point of view you're looking at. Because from the male side of things, Medusa is a monster. She is just out to turn all men to stone, la-da-da-da-da.
I think she would also be considered femme fatale, which is another cliche.
In the manner of speaking, yes. But at the same time, the Medusa head is also over a lot of women's shelters. Because from the female perspective, being turned into a Gorgon was actually a gift to protect her. So that adds a little bit more complexity to that villain story, which I love.
That's really awesome. I agree. Let's see here.
Sedusa.
Oh God!
It's like from Powerpuff Girls.
That's why.
That was a weird episode. As a kid, I was like, this is weird. This is more for grown-ups.
Yep. Anyway.
So there's the big bad, which is next. I'll just read the description here. Very often the big bad remains shrouded in secrecy, keeping his identity away from minion or lesser villains who act upon his plans and commands. Where he does keep his own identity secret, the big bad will often use another commander-type villain, called the dragon, which we'll get to later, to run the day-to-day. The dragon is more likely to share the same objectives, but also to be capable of running other villains under him enforced out of fear or repercussions. So, that's the big bad. So that's usually used in a hierarchy of villains where there's more than one villain. Usually that takes place in like a series or something. So
yeah, like I kind of feel like Voldemort kind of fits that.
Yeah, he has his Death Eaters and stuff, and his inner circle. And, you know, which
like you don't actually see him until book 4.
Exactly.
So, and that's over halfway through a 7-book series.
You see his head in book 1. His face. His
kind of. I mean,
yeah, but you don't like actually see him. You see his face on the back of Quirrell's head.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still a ghostly figure at that point, even though he takes some kind of form on Quirrell's head. It's just such a weird thing.
So sorry. Anyway.
The bully. That's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I feel like that is usually put into like a school setting.
Yeah, more
that's
often
the
than
easiest
not.
way because they're a literal bully.
Yeah, just somebody who.
Or Draco Malfoy. Well, that's still school setting.
Still school setting.
But if you want to get more fantasy related, there you go. Draco Malfoy. He's the bully.
Just somebody who wants to feel superior to those who are actually peers more often than not.
Yes.
Because, like, in Ranger's Apprentice, which, again, we will get you hooked on that eventually, Horace started out as a bully.
Right, yeah. Exactly.
But then it became a cinnamon roll, so it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to skip this one, because I don't want to go through all of it. This one I think is good.
Yeah.
The career criminal. General villainous type found in many detective or crime dramas. Villain works simply for money and the power offered by wealth.
Yeah.
So, basically he can be bribed.
Yeah.
Or the Dark Knight.
Which every single time she has said this, my brain has gone to the Christopher Nolan Batman movies.
It says here, the Dark Knight upholds a strict and seemingly noble code of honor, but it's his own and nobody else can understand it.
So, lawful evil, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. I like this one. The disposed son or snubbed sibling. This villain is born to wealth and privilege or has worked their way up to the top of the corporate ladder but is not deemed worthy of inheriting it. He or she has been disposed of or rejected, although often stays around the peripheral of the family and may appear supportive of the crown taker. This one would be a good one for Incredibles 2, if you've seen that.
Nope.
I saw it.
I haven't seen it yet.
We won't give any spoilers, but just keep that in mind.
Another good example would be Loki, especially in the first Thor and the first Avengers movie, because obviously he has an epic redemption arc. But he was like, he literally has a line that's something close to "I only ever wanted to be your equal."
Mm-hmm.
So
Loki actually fits that better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of like thought of that because I was like, oh, kind of.
And now you have gears spinning about Incredibles 2. Why would you do this to me?
I am so sorry, but seriously, it is
I need to see
so
it.
good.
I'll talk to my sister and see if I can convince her
Or
to come with me.
Hans from Frozen. Well, that's his motivation, is that he wants the crown.
Yeah.
And he's like the youngest or something, so he's not likely to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But even the way that he goes about it, I still don't. I don't get Frozen. Sorry. I know that's controversial.
Well. Anyway,
we'll skip that. Should we go through this?
Let's do the dragon, because that was mentioned earlier.
The dragon, or the boss. The dragon is a modern name for the main leader or second in command of group of villainous sidekicks. He may be an administrator, or he may be the big bad's chief enforcer or fighter, so he can fit several other archetypes. So, yeah.
And then, let's wrap up the...
It says here Darth Vader is an excellent example of the dragon.
Oh, yeah!
Which, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because he's not the primary Sith Lord, but he's...
He is definitely...
He's kind of the face.
Yeah, for sure.
Or the mask, as it were.
Yeah, a lot of people are afraid of him, and he seems like the big bad to many.
Until you meet his boss.
Yeah, until you meet his boss, and you're like, oh.
Well, shit!
Yeah.
And then, just to wrap this up, the Magnificent Bastard.
Oh, yeah. Where is it? It's in here somewhere.
And
There
again,
is.
the link to the article that we're pulling all of this from will be in the description below.
Yeah.
And we're not going through every single type.
Yeah, exactly, because there's like 28.
Yeah, that's just a whole episode on its own, and this would have to be a two-parter.
We're just going through, I think, the ones that come up the most, and then, like, the ones that are our favorites.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Magnificent Bastard is a combination between the Mastermind, Puppet Master, the Devil Incarnate, and the
Competency.
Thank you. I'm having a hard time with that word today. Of the dragon and the ruthlessness of the sadistic predator. Basically, this is a world dominator, but treats it as a game. The Magnificent Bastard can swap sides, too, even working for the good side for a bit of a change. You can't help but admire the trap set out for the heroes and the villain who sets them so easily. All done with a dapper mustache, swishing, and wicked grin.
Crowley.
Yes, Crowley. That'll be for another video.
That little fucker.
Love him to death.
Yas.
Alright. So those are some examples.
Yeah.
Which, definitely check out that article, because that'll give you so much more details and more examples and more cliche archetypes that you can use.
Yeah. They could be both a marker for something to avoid, or you could combine them to make a more complex villain.
Yes.
Which is
and twist,
a lot more fun.
Twist. Yes.
You said twist, so you did the twist. Anyway.
Let's see here.
So, villains are always made as a means of conflict in a story. Some stories have no use for villains because the conflict comes in a different form. Mm-hmm. This is basically a signal to talk about why we feel our stories need villains.
Yes, exactly.
So, it's been a lot of me and Marie talking, so Emrose.
Thanks. Okay. Well, I want to spoil mine though. Mine, the crux of the plot kind of hinges on it. So, well, yeah.
Would you say that goes for all three of ours?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Like,
which is a good reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good reason to have it, you know.
Like, if you took my villain out of the story, then
there's no
story. The villain is most of the conflict.
Yeah.
And, or is the reason why... For mine, actually, she's kind of the reason why everything happened in the first place.
And not just in your book.
Yeah, not just in your book. But, yeah.
Because her villain's my villain's fault. Or, my villain is her villain's fault. That way, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then,
This is where it gets confusing.
For me, Brando really needs to be there to set up a way for Kylara to escape. And a real, like, kick in the pants out the door. But he also made it possible for Tarek to be there in the first place for how he ends up betraying Brander and saving Kylara.
Yeah.
And then also, Brander continues to chase them as she's running away, so it's like this continued tension arc that happens.
Yeah.
It makes things a little bit more complicated when they have to, potentially sacrifice their friends in order to, like, get the fuck out.
Yeah. So yeah, where my story starts, it actually, you don't know about this, like the whole, like, turn of events that happened yet, that got them to this point. This is a thing that happened many years ago. And
many moons ago.
It was all because of a conflict between my villain and my main character's mother. And that spurred this moment to happen, which is why things are the way they are.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then eventually we'll sort out a bit more of the crossover and the villain and or villains thereof, because it's been a while since we've discussed that, so I don't remember everything.
Yeah, I don't remember everything either.
That's why we have
more notes.
That's why we have a Google file for that.
Yeah. Everything's straight.
Yeah.
I think too the benefits of making it a person is there's more complexity because the villain could change, or if you're having a cat and mouse story, there's more of a chase.
It's basically, the villain is basically the embodiment of a conflict or multiple conflicts, which you need for a story to take place.
Yeah.
So it's probably the easiest way to go about creating a story, and especially if you're writing fantasy, more often than not, you're going to need a personified villain.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Now that being said, I know I have one primary villain for basically the entire trilogy. But Rose for sure has multiple villains in a hierarchy. I can never remember because you're...
I do have a hierarchy as well, because there is at least 2 other characters that kind of put plans in motion and hire other villains.
So I'm gonna let you 2 take this one.
So yeah, some stories may have multiple villains. Kind of like another good example would be, not another good example, the example from earlier would be Voldemort's hierarchy of villains. He's got his Death Eaters, he's got the lower tier and then his inner circle, and then himself, who's like the king of the villains, basically. And then there's a sort of like, there's another villain who's completely unrelated as well, which is...
This bitch Umbridge.
Well, not even Umbridge, I'm talking about Grindelwald.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because he's like completely unrelated.
Yeah.
And he was like a villain that terrorized...
Yeah.
More of Europe, basically. So you'll be seeing him, but he doesn't. I don't know if he has necessarily a hierarchy, but Voldemort does, and so that's kind of what we're talking about, where like the main villain basically employs other villains to do their dirty work for them. Yeah, or as like part of the whole plan. So you usually see these lesser villains first in a story, and later on in like the series, you'll meet the big bads.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Do you have anything you want to add to that?
Kind of. I don't think it'll be that great. Anyway, for mine at least, which I haven't planned out very well, the purpose of mine is you have the main villain for book 1, and it kind of, the next higher one up kind of is threatening to take over at the end, and then I have a big change in book 2 where kind of the main villain is revealed, but I don't know if I'll keep that. But I think it'd be, for me, I like to change a bunch of things midway through, because I think it makes it more exciting. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it also brings a little bit more depth to your main characters, actually, if you have multiple villains happening, especially in a series, because they have to fight so many different types of people or overcome all these different types of obstacles, and it's almost like leveling up, like in a game, So it's like...
Yeah, you start with, like, the little bosses, and then eventually you get to the uber boss.
Exactly, and it brings just so many different personalities to the table, and, like, different ways of thinking, and, like, different plot devices happening, and it's just a lot of fun. Plus, it changes up for you, like, as a writer, so you don't get bored with the same villain.
Yeah, and...
Unless it works for your story.
Well, even I kind of changed my villain, even though there's still technically one villain through the whole trilogy. Because there's a huge break in book 2 where there kind of isn't the villain.
Right, so yeah.
Which is so annoying to write. I don't know why I did this to myself.
Goodness, that's another thing. Like, what happens when you don't have a villain necessarily for the story?
Because the original arc of book 1 finishes up around chapter 8 or 9, I think, in book 2. You might remember this better than I do, because I spent too long with this book.
No.
But then literally history gets changed so that the primary
villain.
Thank you. Never actually existed. So there's a huge span of book 2 where there is no villain.
Which is a really interesting concept. It's like,
It's an interesting concept, but it's really fucking annoying to write.
Because you gotta put in all these other conflicts.
Yeah, because then the conflicts turn to internal conflicts, interpersonal conflicts, and remembering what it was like before and trying to reconcile that with what it's like now.
Mm-hmm.
Which is definitely an interesting concept, but I don't even know if I'm executing it very well.
You can take your hand at it.
Yeah.
And see if it works for you in your story.
And I mean this very sincerely. If you do try that, good luck. I look forward to reading you doing it better than I did.
Oh, I feel like you did it.
I feel like it's okay, but
I have to refresh myself. But I'm sure you did great.
Yeah. I have every confidence.
Y'all have way too much confidence in me.
There's a book that I didn't finish reading. I have to find it.
Well, you're mid-move,
Yeah,
so...
called Updraft, where I don't think there's quite a villain per se, but it's fighting against the system and society in place. So there's characters that, like, enforce that, but...
I just more in this question.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we can skip ahead and do that now.
Okay.
Because basically what Emrose is getting at is that not all of your villains have to necessarily be personified. They don't have to be, like, a single being.
Yeah, they could be corporations, or disease, or force of nature.
Yeah, like, Fahrenheit 451 is a good example of that, where, like, it's the established regime that's the villain, which is...
I should amend that. The force of nature needs to be either and or mysterious or destructive force of nature. Society is another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so things along those lines, and that can get interesting to write as well.
Yeah, that can be the villain. So then it's kind of like there's not like an actual villain. It's more of like a...
Yeah.
It's a much bigger thing. Like, we have that in our own society, if you think about it. Like, you know, the whole thing with, like, gay rights and, you know, civil rights and stuff like that. And there's multiple versions of this.
Yeah.
But you can really trace it back to real-world events.
Yeah, you can do a lot in your fiction that's very heavily influenced and inspired by what's actually going on in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I totally took that over from you.
It's fine. No, I'm just tired today, so you guys go on.
You're just here to be a pretty face
I'm
today?
just here to be pretty and to say 2 sentences.
Okay, how does the villain know the hero, if at all, or vice versa, and what is their relationship?
Spoiler.
This is very spoiler-laden. To be fair, my first book has been out for like 2 years, so if y'all are watching this and haven't read the book yet, then that's on you. For me, Brander essentially raised Tarek after both of his parents passed. So that increases the complexity of their relationship, especially after Tarek ends up betraying Brander, and it also leads to very internal conflict with Tarek, because it's like, this is the guy who raised me,
It's basically family.
Yeah, this is my second father.
Yeah.
But he's fucked up, so now I have to fix it, and I don't feel good about it.
Mine, spoiler alert, they are blood related.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. The family reunion is real awkward.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The relationships is, they're rocky. Very rocky.
To put it mildly.
Yeah.
Emrose, what about you?
I don't want to say mine, because then nobody's going to read the book. Or it's going to ruin the whole book. That's not even published yet. But I will say, there's a close relationship, but they don't know each other, so... and the plot of it hinges on that. so I can't change it.
Yeah, that's hard to give away.
Yeah.
Without, like...
That's very difficult to explain without giving it away.
Yeah, so you should just read it.
Yeah, which means you should just write it.
Yes.
And stop going back to restart it.
I know.
That's always a problem, too.
Yeah, so this next question ties in fairly closely with the previous question of what types of interactions
Oh, there we go.
does the villain have with the hero. Mine is very much a pseudo-parent-child relationship, so Brander has a tendency to, like, scold Tarek like he's 7. Like, particularly in that scene where they're attacking the mage's house. And he's like, you know, I was trying to find a good wife for you, and all this shit, and now you're doing this!
Typical father!
Yeah, like, almost like Brander is the super older brother who took over the parent role kind of feeling. Because then, of course, Tarek fires back with, like, I can find a woman on my own! So that's the kind of interaction.
Whatever, Dad!
Yeah, fuck you, dude. Yeah, so that's the primary villain-hero interaction that happens, particularly between Brander and Tarek. With Kylara, it's a little bit more complicated because, initially at least, Brander is trying to convince her to marry him without giving away all this other bullshit that's going on. Which Tarek doesn't even know the full extent of, ever. But that's going to be interesting in the crossover.
For mine, well, okay, so it's... For a while, it's kind of one-sided, because one side doesn't remember.
Yeah.
And the other side does. And it's
Side A is better, side B is confused.
Yeah. Basically.
And then there's a side scene that comes in that's just like, what the fuck?
For mine, my goal, which I have not executed well, is for there to be a sense of unease or just something slightly off because I want it to be really scary. But, yeah, we'll see if that changes.
Sorry, I just had another flashback to that conversation last summer.
Murder! All the murder. Is that really last summer?
Yeah.
That's
Oh my
so
god,
weird.
that's so weird.
Yeah.
Oh, that was such a funny conversation.
I'm so glad I have that recorded. What is the villain's motivation? Is it a single, simple motivation or layered and complex?
I think mine's simple, sort of, but the means to get it is complex.
Okay.
My villain just wants to, well, I guess not go home, but have his family back.
Mm-hmm.
So he has to use my hero to get that. And he's not
And the
apologetic.
hero is not cooperating.
The hero's not cooperating. He is not apologetic at all about it. I kind of want to bring in his backstory because he wasn't always like that. So that's gonna. Originally, I did make him really ruthless and like worse. Not worse than he is, but
Less
made it-
empathetic?
yeah, less empathetic.
Or
like
less sympathetic, maybe, is the correct term.
yeah, less sympathetic and less able to relate more. But I thought that's been done so much, and I didn't really want to contribute more to it, so I changed it, and I think it's more interesting now without giving too much away.
Yeah, I think my villain's ultimate motivation is pretty simple as well. But like, because of events and conflicts, which I think are just as many for the antagonist as the protagonist, that makes the plan layered and complex and difficult.
Yeah. For me, I'm not quite sure, because his villain is not... his motivation is not technically his own.
Right, yeah.
Because he's kind of being controlled and manipulated into doing what he's doing, but at the same time, he's not exactly resisting it that much.
Yeah.
So, it's complicated to explain, but kind of simple.
In theory, it's simple.
Yeah, because there's a very specific reason why he's only
Mm-hmm.
going after women of royal blood.
Mm-hmm. But there's another reason as well underlying that is his own. Yeah.
Yeah. To a certain degree.
Yeah, to a certain degree.
There is an extra layer in that he very quickly feels betrayed by Tarek, who he had taken in and who he had raised as his own, even though he appears to not be that much older than Tarek. But magical aging processes. It's his own motivation is more trying to prove his own power to his surviving parent.
Mm-hmm.
But how he's doing it and what's really driving him to do it are somebody else's fault.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paladar. And then, as it progresses through the trilogy, it gets more and more complex because there's all sorts of bullshit that goes down. And book 3 is gonna be fun.
Oh my god. What happens when... Because Talitha's princess too.
Oh shit. Oh, we gonna need to talk about that.
I just realized.
We are going to need to talk about that. And by the time they meet up, shit has hit the fan with him. So that's gonna cause all kinds of problems.
Yes.
That is gonna be an awesome scene to
That's
write.
gonna be something that she did not expect.
Yeah, she's gonna be so mad at herself.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay, anyway, moving on. Because that needs to be a whole separate conversation that does not happen on camera. How is the villain going to execute his or her plan? Also, how does the villain kill his or her victims?
Murder.
Yes, murder, but how?
Burning. Lots of
Burn,
burning.
baby, burn!
Yeah.
Just go with burn.
He needs that song.
Just have him say burn, baby, burn, and then let the audience figure it out.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's so great.
That is amazing.
Well, anyway, my villain is basically using the second tier villain to like further his own agenda, basically. And yeah, murder. At one point, poison, but I don't know if I want to go with poison. Something bad.
Mm-hmm.
It might have to be poison though. Now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
There's multiple ways for mine. She's not exactly discriminatory when it comes to that. It depends on what the victims is for.
Yeah.
Because there's some that have their uses.
Which leads perfectly annoying.
And then there's some that are directly tied to her main goal.
Yeah.
So they're being taken care of very differently, and usually there's a lot of magic involved.
Yeah. Mine's kind of old school because of yours.
Yeah.
Because mine needs the blood part of things for yours.
Mm-hmm.
So there's usually bladed objects involved and a lot of bleeding out.
Yeah.
A lot of bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
blood,
Yeah.
blood,
I
and
would say
death.
I think she mostly because she does do her killing from afar, and it's mostly through manipulation through others that she has hired. Or
hired is generous, but
well, hired in my
cases.
story,
Yeah.
not hired in your story.
Yeah, pretty much.
But definitely manipulated.
Oh, yes. And, oh man, we need to talk about that.
Yeah.
Is there a psychological component?
Yes.
Yes, there is.
Yes.
I specified here socio or psychopath. Mine becomes a psychopath kind of because of a sociopath. Yeah.
That answers
He's
that.
not for mine. He's
No.
just a jackass. And he's sadistic.
I hope we're not
So-
being too loud for your neighbors.
It's 127.
Alright.
Yeah, we're fine.
Cool.
Is there room for hidden depths with your villain? I.e., is the villain being controlled? Yes. does the villain think the roles are reversed? Meaning, does he feel like the hero is in fact the villain and he's the hero? Because most villains do believe that they are the hero.
Yeah.
But...
That definitely goes for mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Because yours feels very betrayed by something
She's
else
very
that happens.
victimized in herself.
Yeah.
And she has good reason for that, actually.
Yeah, she does, but how she's going about...
It's a little too far. A little too far, and I think she knows it.
Yeah.
But she doesn't care at this point.
She's kind of what I refer to as a light switch person, not a dimmer switch person.
Yeah.
On or off, no in between.
Nope. She doesn't know how that feels, so that's gonna be hard for her.
My villain thinks he's the hero, definitely. He doesn't feel that my hero is his villain, though. But he's just like, can you just cooperate? I'm doing this for a good reason.
It's like, I'm about to do some table flipping right here.
Yeah.
Don't chill the fuck out.
But he definitely thinks, I think he has a good reason, honestly, too. Not that I would do what he's doing.
And not, of course, they would buy a certain
It's at all.
Yeah. But my second tier villain isn't being controlled, but she's definitely manipulated, and that's why there's decapitation in book 2, possibly book 3. Don't know yet. If I throw in another villain in there, there might be like...
Well, things just got really...
There might be 4. There might be... I guess there has to be 4, or at least like a joined up one.
Yeah.
My villain in book 1 comes back. So that's a spoiler.
Yeah.
I'm really excited.
Just on a side note, can I just point out how adorable and hilarious it is to listen to these two tiny little adorable humans talking about murder?
Murder!
That's why there's no murder.
Like, it's not as surprising with me, because I can be a bitch, I can be ruthless, I know this. I also fenced competitively for 8 years, and I've known how to use power tools for 20.
I still can't see it, though.
Yeah, well, you're on my good side.
Well, yeah, true. But even still, you're not that type. You know...
I channel it into my writing, but...
Yes, exactly. You murder there.
Yes.
We're all just murderers. As writers.
Yes.
I had to Google, which I know this isn't that bad, but one time I had to Google, like, how long does it take for somebody to suffocate?
Yeah.
And I was like, anybody who reads that.
There's a whole series of
I
memes
know.
on Pinterest.
That's what I mean. I know that's not that bad.
Why do I have a dead body in her attic? It's okay, I'm a writer.
This is for a novel.
Yes.
Trust me.
Okay, moving on.
Okay.
Okay, so...
This is a fun video.
Is there anyone the villain genuinely cares for or would willingly protect?
Yeah, but they're not here, so...
That's kind of your
That's the
villain's
whole
motivation.
point, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd used to, till he just got twisted. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. She genuinely cares for this person. But it's very twisted.
Shit hit the fan big time.
Yeah.
So.
It's extremely twisted.
Yeah, and
I
shit
think-
hit the fan big time
I think-
before either of our stories started.
Yeah. And, I think she genuinely cares for her family, who she's screwing over, deep down in a place that she has locked away.
Yeah.
And I think that'll come to light, like, at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, shit goes down first.
Yes.
With Brander, it's a little complicated because he did genuinely care for Tarek, and a part of him always will.
Mm-hmm.
But once Tarek gets out from under his influence, there's a lot more anger toward him for betraying.
That makes sense,
Brander. And and he did genuinely care for Talitha at one point, just like he cared about, is it still Era?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Era. But things just went sideways in all sorts of ways.
Yeah.
They didn't just go sideways, they went upside down, they went diagonal.
It was like they all rolled down the stairs in a bubble. Like one of those bubble balls that go inside, and everyone there was no handholds or anything, and you just...
And somehow there was a water slide with a jump that led into a lake. And then everybody got a concussion. It was Bad News Bears.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And here's one that's kind of fun. Does your villain rely more on wits and intelligence or strength and brawn?
Wits and intelligence for mine, for sure.
I guess kind of both, because in the sense that, like, he uses the resources at his disposal to give the orders for the wits intelligence parts, but he likes, this sounds terrible, he likes personal brute and brawn.
He likes getting hands-on
like
with
one-on-one, you know, but he won't like go massacre a whole town, but one-on-one for special circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, that's my bread and butter.
Yeah.
So.
Brander definitely tries to stick with the brains technique, because, like, with Kylar in particular, he struck a deal with Dian in order to get half of the country and take care of killing off Kylar at the same time.
Yeah.
That being said, he ends up using brawn a lot more.
Much more physical.
Yeah.
Yeah, Talitha, she has to rely on her wits and intelligence more just because of the situation that she finds herself in.
Yeah, like she has to think her way around things.
Yeah, she really has to, and she has to do it from afar.
Yeah.
And so she needs to rely on that and use other people as her muscle. But that's not to say that she isn't strong physically, she really is.
Yeah, but she doesn't get the opportunity to use it very much.
No, at least not on the people that she wants to.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even with the last little conflict that Brander has with Tarek and Kylar, he does go for the brawn technique, but with an edge of intelligence. Because of the whole poison knife thing.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, you liked that scene, didn't you?
Poison.
That food is poison.
And Rose, everyone.
Yep. The adorable psychopath with the stuffed bat. And that's all that we have pre-prepared questions for. Is there anything else that we want to add before we wrap this up?
I remembered a villain I really like.
Yeah.
So Holland in A Darker Shade of Magic, who is another hierarchy thing, because everything he's doing, he's being controlled, first of all, but he also just wants to, like, rescue his world. So, and he's not, like, an intrinsically evil person, I would say. So I loved him. So.
Yeah, sort of along the same lines as Killmonger, like,
yeah.
Good idea, bad execution. Yeah.
I kind of love when villains have sidekicks, like they're best buds.
Like Pain and Panic?
Yeah. Or like from Anastasia.
Bartok.
Yeah, the bat.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love him just because he's hilarious.
Yeah.
But also it's just because you see this sort of genuine friendship.
Yeah.
Between the villain and this other person or being.
Yeah, like that's another thing to consider. Like, don't just give the hero a comedic sidekick. Give the villain one, because that's a lot more fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's someone that they can truly trust, bounce ideas off of, and I think oftentimes the sidekick either can be even more villainous than the villain, or they can be like, is that such a great idea?
Yeah. Oh!
Should we, they're like their moral compass, you know?
Yeah, I don't remember the names because it's been way too long since I've read the book, but there's a book called Heroics for Beginners that plays off of a lot of the stereotypes, and it's hilarious, because the primary villain, like, has a very strict dress code of, like, business casual, like, he's totally fine with it, there's a gift shop on the way out of Dark Fortress and all this other stuff, but his right-hand woman is determined to be a badass bitch and is always showing up in, like, kinky, like, 6-inch platform stiletto boots and, like, the tightest corset possible, all latex, all leather, like, and he just cannot get her to even do casual Friday, and it's amazing. But, like, I need to reread that book. It's really short.
I want to read this.
Well, the next round of books that I lend you, I'll bring that one too.
Alright.
Like, that book is just fucking hilarious. Like, if anybody has read Peter's Evil Overlord list, which I will leave a link down below, but, like, the top 100 things that evil overlords do wrong, like, I will have a 5-year-old advisor. If the 5-year-old sees a problem, we don't fix it. and all of that stuff. It really plays off of that sort of mentality. Like, the princess is a busty, blonde, all this other... It's hilarious, and I need to reread it. But just the fact that the villain's primary sidekick insists on, like, the dominatrix look.
So great.
While the villain is kind of basically sitting there in a Hawaiian t-shirt and shorts. But, like, there's that version of things, and then also the Dark Lord's Handbook trilogy. The primary character you follow is the villain, and he's awesome, and I love it. But he also has, like, the old sage mentor type orc person thing, and then you have, like, the general and all this other stuff, and it's... And his dad is such a ledge, it's hilarious. That's another one that we need to read.
I find it so interesting when it's the villain that's your main character.
Yeah, it's a lot less done.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more fun to read.
Yeah, for sure. If you're struggling to figure out what you want to write, but you love playing with villains, you should probably try that.
Yeah, write the villain story.
Yeah.
I loved how that was like an infomercial.
Yeah, that totally was.
And coming eventually.
We should do that.
We do need to do that, but, like, maybe after you get back from your honeymoon.
Oh.
Because everything is so crazy right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not right now. I mean,
yeah. We do have plans in the works for doing a book club style podcast that will be chock full of spoilers and discussing books that all three of us have read and forcing each other to read and all this other good stuff. But we'll get to that eventually, hopefully.
Yeah. I don't know. We haven't set a date or anything like that, but it is coming.
Yeah.
So look out for that.
Yes. And on that note, thank you for joining us on this episode of The Writing Inquisition. I'm Carol Benton.
I'm Marie Allen.
And I'm Rose Lee.
And we'll catch you next time.